Okay, we continue learning Shemiras Shabbos. Yesterday we learned about the flame going out and the incredible chiddush of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach that even if you did not have das for the flame to go out, but since when you put something on the flame, your das was for it to stay there, even if it subsequently goes out, it's going to be considered das and you're going to be able to move it onto a new covered flame. Even if it's not an overturned pot, a new covered flame will suffice. And Simchav Ches continues the Shemiras Shabbos, and really as a continuation of what we just said, he says, Kitin Kavsa B'Shabbos Alav Shekdir Al Gabel, just like the din of a flame going out on Shabbos, Kain din Kedira Medes Al Gabi Kirayim, so too if you have a pot on a stove, Al Gabi Plata Chashmalit, or on top of a hot plate, V'nis Bayer, and it becomes apparent, Shekvar Mibad Yoin Kavsa Lava. Let's say you realize you put up your challenge, and then Friday night you go and you look, you say, Oy the flame went out. Or maybe it wasn't on even before Shabbos. Or it was supposed to go on with a timer and it did not. He says it's going to be the same din. What is that din going to be? You can be allowed to move it to a covered flame as long as it is still warm. Of course, the chiddush here being that when Shabbos began, it was not even on a flame. But because your das was for it to be on a flame, as long as it is warm now, you'll be able to move it to a covered flame. In Hara Pei, he points out, look at Rav Moshe, who derives this from the Shita of the Ran. But continues the Shemiras Shabbos, if you put out the flame, or you turned off electricity, then you can now move it to another flame, even if it is covered. However, as we've seen, you could do kedera al gabe kedera. In Ara Pei Aleph, he points out, Vim kavaish. Let's say you put out the flame. Alminas, and you wanted to relight it. Which many people, whether for whatever reason, they do this with their chalent. The chalent's cooking, and whatever it is, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they turn off the chalent, and then 2 hours later, the plan was to turn it back on. And then, as many times happens, then you forgot. Motor lahavir al gabi ish mechusa. You're allowed to move it to a covered flame. Why? Is the mistake. Lo nechshavas kemen al gabi karka. The mistake is not going to be called al gabi karka. Those are two extensions of mistakes, two extensions of kavsa of the flame going out. Continue with Simcha of Tas, says the Shemiras Shabbos. Call kira chashmalid. Now we get involved in hot plates and the like. Says the Shemiras Shabbos, any electric oven, nachshavas leish megula, a regular electricity has a din of eish. Even if it's covered, you have a griddle or the like. Lemaisa has a regular din of an eish, and therefore, you're not allowed to put onto it a pot of food. You're not allowed to put food on top of such an entity because that's a regular din of an eish. No din if you see the flame, no difference, if you see the flame, and no difference if it is an electric flame underneath a metal sheet or the like. Obviously, that is the oven. If you have a blach, then it's called a blach. But in Sif Lamed, he says, V'ulam, however, no, V'ulam, however, very good. Plata chashmalit amiyades l'Shabbat. An electric hot plate that is specified for Shabbos, a cholent plata amiyades. And what's it there for? Listen carefully to the words of the Shemiras Shabbos. Really, what he's explaining now is what's the difference between Sifcha of Tas and Sif Lamed. And Sifcha of Tas, he taught us a boiling hot piece of metal as a regular din of eish. Now he says boiling hot metal is called a plata, is going to be different. Hamiyades, why? It's designated lishmar al chayma machal shaleho, just to maintain the heat. Ve'ein regilun levashaleho, and you're not accustomed to cooking it. V'gam yevshel hagdalas midas hachayim shalah, and it is impossible to raise the heat. Ein to'una kisu noisif, does not need another cover. Again, he said two critical definitions. Number one, it's not made to cook. And number two, it cannot be changed the temperature. And you're allowed to return about it. Of course, you have to have other conditions. Karnel Sif Chof. If you want to put something on top of the radiator which is hot, which again is the same side, it's not normal to cook there, and it's no temperature. You're not allowed to do nesina lechatchila to your plata. Even your plata that does not change temperatures and is only there to maintain the heat, for some Zalman Paskins, you cannot do nesina lechat chila on such a story. If you want to cover over your plata with blankets, sounds like a fire hazard, but let's say to keep the things warm, see further in Ayin Vav and Ayin Zayin. Over here, Hina Ara Pei Gimel explains or some things, Rav Neuber, Peshem Risham Zalman, Shamati Risham Zalman, V'nimuku Imai. You put something on this plata on Erev Shabbos, Hariza Chashiv Kikituma. Has a din of a covered flame. Why? Number one, it's not designated for cooking. And number two, there's no way you could do a stoking of it because there is no temperature. V'dina kikashu gvava has a din of kashu gvava in the Gemara, straw and stubble. Shemoter af, you're even allowed to do chazara onto this entity because there's no way to raise it and it's not made to cook. V'ayin v'sim nirei shayin hey sefal b'arlacha kisham u'matel likurla minayir neift ba'ivin shein chashash miyar ba'ayir v'gam was a hacker. Okay, let's leave the raya. V'gam kan yish leheker. There's a hacker. Why? Be'etzim shimush beplata azois k'dei lishor al chayma tavshel ve'ein regil lavashalav. So Shem Zalman is learning that it has to be something that is miyuad, designated for heating and not cooking, not normal to cook on it, and no heat and no temperatures. Which, by the way, a lot of the American platas are going to have a serious problem because they have dials. And therefore, the heter that he's talking about, which is a heter chazara, a heter shehiyah, with doing nothing else, will not apply if it has a dial. That's a journal. In ER Tashil Chav Gimel, Tshuva Faram Hagoyin Rav Si Pesach Frank, Shal Tshuva Zar Tzvi, and Igros Maisha Void. Void Amar Hagoyin Rav Zalman. Another din. Another ayah. Seven Ration and Gimel. Sheina Bala Lishra Al Chaim, an entity which is only there to keep the heat. After, you can even do Nesina Lechatchila in this area. Meaning on a dry entity, like a kugel. That which we are machmer, who rakedesh levelachatos. Ubeplata rein sham chashash al chitoi. Why? Because there's no dials. Ein sham beralach. V'imkein afshi yitachis shemuter. So yitachis shemuter. A big line on the top. He said he allowed to do nesina lechatchila onto your plata without a dial. He said no. In the footnote, he says b'shemiras Shabbos it's yitachin that it should be muta. Mikol makim toiv lahachmer relita lechatchila. It's a toiv. Ach amenichal gabi karka shaper shari lahachzir. So lamaisa Shem Zalman, if you want to know what he holds Medina, you can do nesina lechatchila directly on top of your plata. Toiv, it is better not to. And finally, at the end, he said you should not put something. You should not do nesina lechatchila. Ha'ara peidalid to lo yitir ela chazara. Lo yitir ela lechatchila, as we just saw. Ayin Ramoshe. But Ramesha writes the words Yavsh. Im ein sham ela midas chaim achas l'chimam aval mishtei midas. It's also Shemati Shem Zalman. Tiesh ladon b'mitkan kozeh Hashem mufal b'turmastat. Hamachaves chashmal kisha chaim etavshel mitkarev l'shir she'atz l'edus bay. Turns off when he gets close to the l'edus bay. Yimutz l'hamik der al mitkan b'shasha inod poyel. Are you allowed to put something onto it while it's off? Okay, we'll leave it at that. He says ayin sham. So that's going to be the halachas of a hot plate and nesina lechatchila chazara to it. And he continues in Sif Lamed Aleph. Ubasher lahavaras keder mimakam cham pachos sheblata chashmalit lemakam cham yoiser. You want to move something from a lower level of heat to a higher level of heat. Ein lahatira lemkin ataf shabam bushakal tarki. Of course, has to be fully cooked. Ukfishu relel sif. Sivachavt al chavei. Shelazu mitsuya bekesher lekedera asher echinu b'chamin l'Shabbat. That's called cholent. V'ashashu it and the beans And v'v'shal then called tzarkai. You're not allowed to move it to hotter area on the plata. As we've seen, reminds the Shemiras Shabbos. Yes, this electric plata you could do chazara. However, to move things around is only going to be allowed if it is fully cooked. And finally, kedera ba'eichel mavushal. You have a fully cooked dish. B'erev Shabbos motzalita nasal gabikira chashvelet b'shashazu einoy muf'elet. You want to put your fully cooked dish on top of an oven, electric oven, when it's not on, it's off. Av kashim mechuberes l'sha'on Shabbat. It's attached to a timer. Shabbos Shabbos, it's going to turn on Shabbos. Oh, and it has to be sheikira tia mechusa karai. It has to be covered up. You cannot take it off and put it back before the electricity goes on. Also, now to put something onto the flame. So this is a big line. Many people want to try to do this one. They have their platas turned off. I should slow down. Like I should go back to like Lamed. Okay. The koshkein. This is very relevant. Very often on Shabbos, someone wants to put their plata on a timer, and then before the timer goes on, they want to put their food on it, and then the timer will go on and it will heat up the food. The reason they might want to do that is because they might want to put on liquid items on it. Maybe that'll work. So what he's talking about over here in Sifla Amid Beis is what is the status of an oven of a plata before the timer goes on. So he started off telling me that if I have something, I have a pot of food and an Erev Shabbos I want to put on top of the oven while it is not on, the oven is off, and then it's going to turn on this Shabon Shabbat to the timer. That is fine as long as it is covered. Now he's talking about the kol shekain on Shabbos. Also, you cannot on Shabbos put it onto this kira that's going to turn on with a timer. Aval, you're allowed to tell a guy to do it. A guy can put something on top of a oven, a timer, while it is off. Even if it's not covered. He's talking about liquids. This would be the potential eitzah. Everyone's trying to heat up their meat in sauce. This would be the potential eitzah. Would be to put it on top of a kira that is off with a timer turning it on. Problem is, he said it's usher. But he said a guy could do that for you. A guy could do it. It's not bishul, it's already pre-cooked. It's already pre-cooked. The only issue now is the fact that it's heating up something that was pre-cooked. So on that, on a timer that's off, he's willing to be meikol al yedei nachri. Al yedei nachri. Let's look at ha'ara pei hey. Ayin in the chazoin ish. This is a very famous and debated chazoin ish, how we use timers. Okay. Ayin min chas yitzchak, mlamid lahayel. Weiter. Matu Shalayim, Chasam Sefer Atzvi, Weiter, B'Shemiras Shabbos Zalmin, Seidi Shurin, okay, he doesn't say anything, I'm sorry. Let's him didn't shun Shabbat, he doesn't say anything, okay. No, okay. Sorry, I thought he said something here, I stand corrected. Sharach Repula Nusefes. No, nothing going on over here. Fine. That is the halacha. One more time. A kedera ba'oicha mevushal. He's allowing you to put it onto a timed area before Shabbos, not on Shabbos. But a guy would be able to put it on Shabbos and then turn on. Now, why he's being machmar is a good kasha. The footnotes, he just gives you a lot of ayins. He doesn't explain. So we'll see. Maybe we'll come back to this in Mirza Hashem.